Good morning, everyone. Members of the media, thank you for joining us today for this press conference. Mr. Ramesh Lawrence, Maharaj Senior Counsel, and I act for and on behalf of businessman Michael St. John. We are assisted by attorneys Aaron Morales and Nicholas Sant. A very serious issue of both human rights and constitutional rights as it affects the security of the person where false information is held by a public authority. Mr. Maharaj will elaborate on the facts and law which have caused Mr. John to become the victim of false, misleading information on the database of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, which has seriously injured his reputation and continues to do so. A pre-action protocol letter has been dispatched to the Commissioner of Police for her immediate attention on behalf of our client and is copied to Mr. David West of the Police Complaints Authority, seeking legal redress pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act to correct and delete the false and misleading information contained. Mr. St. John is widely known for his long-standing and successful music promotion company, Tue Promotion Company Limited, which has brought many international artists to the country and the wider Caribbean. He has contributed significantly to the development of the music industry with the production of large events and concerts with major international music artists such as Damian Marley, Jacquio, Sean Paul, Barry's Hamilton, Peebo Bryson, Barrington Levy, Wycliffe Jean, Lauryn Hill, Beanie Man, Anthony B, Bounty Killer, Sizzler, Buju Banton, Elephant Man, Supercat, Capleton, DMX, and many others. Many of these concerts had attendances that exceeded 30,000 patrons. He has mentored and sponsored many young local artists, DJs, and other in the entertainment industry in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. In addition to his music production company, Mr. St. John has successfully owned and operated several businesses in the service and entertainment industry. Mr. St. John discovered in 2022 that information regarding his personal record were being kept in a database system by the TTPS. It included false and misleading information about him. His attorneys at the time wrote to the TTPS seeking to have this matter investigated and the false information removed. Regrettably, the issue of misinformation was not addressed, yet the TTPS confirmed a clean record. This was discovered by our client during a U.S. green card application interview at the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad. He learned that the information in the local system hindered his application. This led Mr. St. John to investigate the allegations in the local system. These findings concerned our client as prior to his U.S. green card application, his U.S. lawyers retained on the matter confirmed that there were no pending matters or issues in the United States that could affect his application. The revelation of this false information stored on a TTPS database raises serious issues on the integrity of the system and the damage not only to our client but others who may be unaware of the existence of this data system where information could be stored and manipulated. The danger of national security agencies having a system that may have been corrupted and or compromised is a serious indictment on the integrity of the national security system. The recent statements by the Prime Minister on the Security Services Agency, SSA, and its operations were alarming and raised serious concerns about the national security in Trinidad and Tobago. This matter compounds the concerns of our client, Mr. Michael St. John. The right to privacy and the protection of the law are fundamental human rights. However, the duty to keep accurate records is equally fundamental. Erroneous and false records kept by a public authority are detrimental to the safety and security of any individual who falls prey to a system that is capable of manipulation. If a person is falsely described as a money launderer, drug trafficker, child molester, terrorist, or a person engaged in human trafficking or corrupt activities in this system, the consequences would be dire. The age of digitalization governs our lives, where a simple post can be disruptive, and the use of AI can alter the identity of any individual. With the risks that come with digitalization is the responsibility of public agencies to jealously guard the integrity of information stored on members of the public. The duty and responsibility to protect the rights of the individual is paramount to upholding the fundamental and constitutional rights of all citizens. This matter must be immediately investigated, and an audit of the system must be conducted to determine the source of the false and misleading information and how the integrity of it can be restored into the system. The United Nations, by resolution adopted by the General Assembly on 18th December 2013, called on all states to respect and protect the right to privacy, including the context of digital communication, to take measures to put an end to violation of those rights and to create the conditions to prevent such violations, and ensuring that the relevant national legislation complies with their obligations under international human rights law, to review their procedures, practice, and legislation regarding surveillance and communication, their interception and the collection of personal data, including mass surveillance, interception and collection, and with a view to upholding the right to privacy by ensuring the full and effective implementation of all their obligations under international human rights law, to establish and maintain existing independent, effective domestic oversight mechanisms capable of ensuring transparency as appropriate and accountability for state surveillance communications, the interception and the collection of personal data. In light of these circumstances that compromise the rights of Mr. Michael St. John, our client wishes to have his records cleared and by extension his name. I will now invite Mr. Maharaj to address you in more detail on the law and facts as it relates to this matter. Mr. Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lalla. Good morning to all the members of the media and to all those who are present. I would like to say good morning to all the persons who are listening on the live broadcast, and who would be a good day to anyone who will be listening on any rebroadcast. I would like to extend special thanks to members of the media for accepting our invitation to attend this media conference. We have called you here this morning to tell you about the facts of a case which show that Mr. St. John, the subject of the case, had his character and reputation damaged, and I would say almost destroyed. The facts of that case emphasizes the importance of individuals to be able to correct false and inaccurate personal information which are held by public authorities. It brings into focus the Freedom of Information Act, which I had the fortune to pilot in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago in 1999 when I served as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. The storage of false personal information of individuals and the fact that this can be disclosed to embassies, insurance companies, banks, etc., can cause severe damage to individuals and can in effect cause their character and reputation to be destroyed. This matter involves the constitutional right to privacy and to the enjoyment of family life. This is a right which is also guaranteed in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. This morning, I want to demonstrate to you the facts of this case and to show you how, if this can happen to Mr. St. John, it can happen to every individual in Trinidad and Tobago. Having this conference here this morning is for, in effect, to give a public legal education to people in Trinidad and Tobago to see the seriousness of this matter. At the heart of the issues would be whether the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service can hold personal information of an individual which is false and inaccurate, and which the police service admits that the information is false and inaccurate. But that information can be accessed by other agencies and entities, including banks, embassies, and the police service refuses to correct the inaccurate and false personal information. The evidence which Mr. St. John has provided to us shows that by the TTPS, I'll refer to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as the TTPS, by the TTPS storing and holding false and inaccurate personal information of him on its database, including what is called the Veridex system, Mr. St. John has suffered and continues to suffer grave injustice. He is a victim of false and inaccurate entries of his personal information in the database of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service issued to him a certificate of good character and that he had a clean record. But notwithstanding that certificate of good character, the TTPS database, including its Veridex system, contains false and incorrect information which portrays him as a person who does not have a good character. The TTPS has been asked to correct that record, and they have refused to correct it. And so that is why we are going to take action to compel, and I'll show you how we will compel them to correct it. If they do not, the courts will compel them to correct it. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has not denied that the information is incorrect, inaccurate, and false. It has admitted that he has a clean record, but is not prepared to take action to correct that record. We say the TTPS cannot use its database to publish false and inaccurate personal information of individuals and allow that information to be accessed by other agencies or entities. And when the TTPS is confronted by an individual on the false information, for the TTPS to correct that false information, for the TTPS to take the position to distance itself from the said information and claim that the TTPS is not responsible for storing and holding the false and inaccurate information on its database system. I want to give you a summary of the facts which the investigation by Mr. St. John has revealed. Mr. St. John obtained a certificate of good character and clean record from the police service. That certificate, together with documents and information, was submitted by his USA lawyer, Mr. Royce Russell, to the National Visa Center in the USA in an application made by Mr. St. John to get a green card. The National Visa Center in the USA stated that Mr. John satisfied all of the requirements and criteria for him to get the green card. But the last stage of that application process was for Mr. St. John to attend an interview. And that interview was fixed to be held in Trinidad at the Trinidad and Tobago Embassy of the United States Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago. his USA attorney at law arranged for Mr. St. John to have that interview conducted in Trinidad. The embassy had all the relevant papers for the application for the green card, including a recent certificate of good character and clean record of Mr. St. John issued by the TTPS. At the interview, however, the visa officer at the USA Embassy in Trinidad told him, Mr. St. John, that there was something in his local records which affected his application for the green card. He was told that they could not tell him what the information is, but that he should try to sort it out with the local agencies and then reapply for his green card. That occurred in 2017. Mr. St. John then began to investigate the matter to discover what was this something in his local records which could prevent him from getting the green card. All his investigations with the police service showed that he had a clean record, a certificate of good character. But still, there was something on local records which adversely affected him from getting that green card, but he couldn't find it. So he took every step to employ investigators, got investigators, and based on his investigations and the information he got, which he discovered in 2022, he managed to get a copy of the screenshots of what the TTPS had on its database. And what he saw on the screenshots were not what he saw in the certificate of good character. What he saw on the screenshots portrayed him as if he was not a person of good character. And the date of the entry of the matters he saw on the screenshot was the 13th of March 2017, which was a few months before the interview he had with the USA Embassy. This information was on the TTPS database, including, and I'm saying specifically, including the Veridex system which the TTPS uses. That system is used to store information and hold information of nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. He observed on the screenshot the entries. There were few entries. The database system of the TTPS is viewed by certain members of the TTPS as well as other security agencies, certain other security agencies. The data is inputted by authorized persons. This system does not form part of the general system used by the TTPS to produce the standard certificates of good character. The database and the information used on this system is to provide, is to have profile of individuals, and they are provided to agencies which require sensitive information, such as embassies and other entities. Upon this discovery, what did Mr. St. John do? Mr. St. John then instructed his then attorneys at law, Mr. Michael Comina, to write to the Commissioner of Police to address this serious matter, to have an investigation, and the copies of the screenshots were sent to the Commissioner of Police. The letter was dispatched on the 7th of April 2022, and there were follow-up letters, there were exchange of letters, and The TTPS, in a reply dated the 26th of July 2022, from the head of the legal services of the TTPS, took the position that Mr. John, according to their records, has a clean record, has a good character, but it was not taking any responsibility for what was on the screenshots. As far as the TTPS was concerned, they knew nothing of those matters, and the TTPS refused to take any steps to investigate further, to correct, or to see who were compiling these records, and therefore Mr. St. John was left without a remedy. The disclosure of the false and erroneous information and data on the TTPS database, including the Veridex system, has caused Mr. St. John significant personal embarrassment and damage to his character and reputation. It has affected his trading and business interests, which require him to apply for licenses, regulatory permits, insurances, loans for his businesses. This has posed a significant obstacle to his business generally in the conduct of his businesses. This can happen to you. It can happen to me. If this system continues, that the TTPS can give you a clean record certificate, a certificate of good record, but on a Veridex system, on the TTPS database, you have information of yourself which is not true and which can be disseminated to embassies, banks, insurances, companies, whatever it is. Damage and destroy your reputation, but the information cannot be corrected by the TTPS. Before I go into the facts of this matter, I want to tell you that this is a matter close to my heart, because I take the position that a man or woman's character and reputation is more important than property. You can sell a property, you can acquire property, but when you damage a person's reputation, when you destroy a person's character and reputation, that is very difficult. The damage, the unhappiness caused not to the person but to the family of that individual. I experienced that. One of the experiences I had was in 1975. I was fighting for the rights of an individual before a judge. The judge took the position that I committed a contempt of court. He ordered my arrest. He sent me to prison for 7 days. Lawyers came and asked me to apologize. I refused. I was offered a pardon. I refused. I was offered to go to the Court of Appeal and apologize to the judge, and I refused. I said I'm going to fight this to the end. I fight in the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and it was vindicated in the Privy Council. My character and reputation was vindicated after years of fight. So this is close to my heart, and that is why I am part and parcel of this battle to have it corrected. The Privy Council, in a famous case called Reynolds and Times Newspaper Limited, recorded in 2001 two appeal cases at page 201, stated these few words: reputation is an integral and important part of the dignity of the individual. It also forms the basis of many decisions in a democratic society, which are fundamental to its well-being: whom to employ or work, or for whom to promote, whom to do business with. Once besmirched by an unfounded allegation, a reputation can be damaged forever. especially if there is no opportunity to vindicate one's reputation. When this happens, society as well as the individual is the loser. That is why I am in this battle. And I want to tell you something. When I became the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, in 1999, I decided that I would go to the Cabinet to have a law introduced in Trinidad and Tobago called the Freedom of Information Act. I got Cabinet approval, and I piloted that bill in the Parliament. It became the law. But when that bill was being drafted, that was a bill, that was to be a law, and that is now a law, in which government entities have to provide information, public information, to individuals. Anyone who wants to get government-held information or public utilities information can apply. And if you apply and they refuse you, the court can enforce that right. I insisted in 1991 that it must not only protect public information, it must also protect the personal information of individuals. And I included in that bill, which is the law in Trinidad and Tobago in Section 36 of the Freedom of Information Act, if a public authority is holding personal information of an individual and that personal information is false or inaccurate, that information must be corrected by the public authority. And if the public authority does not correct that information, the person can go for a judicial review and the court can compel the public authority to correct the information. Section 36 and Section 39 of the Freedom of Information Act. When we were conceptualizing that law in 1999 at the Attorney General's office, with the Law Commission and all the people in the Law Commission, we looked at all the countries without freedom of information legislation. England did not have it to correct personal information. Other countries did not have it. A few countries had it, and I insisted that we must have that as part of the law of Trinidad and Tobago. I am happy today that I can utilize that law to get justice for Mr. Errol St. John. Let me tell you, having given you a summary of what the facts are about, I want you to know that the letter that was written by his previous attorneys at law made it clear to the Commissioner of Police. The letter written by Mr. Commoner and Mr. Hackett. The letter made it clear that their instructions are that the Veridex system is a database system which is utilized by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to record and store a person's criminal record. The letter pointed out that Mr. St. John obtained the screenshots of the records concerning him, which erroneously recorded information and descriptions about him, but which did not portray him as a person having a good character, notwithstanding that the TTPS gave him a certificate having a good character. The letter pointed out that Mr. St. John's concerns were heightened by the possibility of such information adversely affecting his trading business, and the letter called upon the Commissioner of Police to investigate, give them the name of the database, the Veridex database, and give them all the relevant information. And notwithstanding that, the TTPS took the position that he has a clean record, but basically the police service is impotent to do anything about it. Mr. St. John got more screenshots. He got more screenshots in 2022, and in 2024, he got more screenshots. And the screenshots changed some of the information, but did not change the fact which showed that he was a person of bad character. So it showed that there was activity on this database from 2022 to 2024, and it's the TTPS database with the Veridex system. So therefore, he continues to be a victim of the false and inaccurate entries. Now, it may be that the police service or the TTPS believes that he cannot do anything about it. So I've told you about Section 36. I wanted to tell you what Section 36 provides. It provides that inaccurate is defined as incorrect, incomplete, inaccurate, misleading. And it says that the public authority can be required to correct information, and that information can be corrected by either amending it, supplementing it, and or deleting it. So the TTPS had an option. If it says it doesn't know anything about Veridex system, it doesn't know it, it doesn't own it, it doesn't have anything to do with it, the TTPS had an option of putting a supplementary statement on the TTPS record to show that he has a certificate of good character, but that is untrue. It's false, and the Veridex system is false. They didn't do that. So we are saying that the snapshots are copies of official documents held by the TTPS in connection with its function, and we are saying that under the Freedom of Information Act, whether or not the information was created by the TTPS, but the TTPS uses that information and it is held by the TTPS in its possession, custody, and control, the TTPS must accept responsibility for that information. The express and implicit obligation is for the TTPS to have correct and accurate information of individuals. That is why the Act provides the right to correct inaccurate information. So that creates a duty on the TTPS to hold correct information. And therefore the TTPS has a sacred and a legal duty to correct false information, which is stored by the TTPS. By the terms of the Freedom of Information Act, we say that freedom of information is a guaranteed and legal and enforceable right in Trinidad and Tobago, which permit every individual to obtain records and information held by government and public authorities. The Act also requires public authorities to keep correct and accurate personal information on individuals, and it gives the court in a judicial review application the power to correct the records of personal information of individuals held by a public authority. The importance of freedom of information as a fundamental right is beyond question. In the very first session of the United Nations General Assembly in 1946, the UN adopted a resolution 59-1 which stated, and I quote, "Freedom of information is a fundamental human right and the touchstone of all freedoms to which the United Nations is consecrated." Abid Hussain, the UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Opinion and Expression, elaborated this in his 1995 report to the UN Commission on Human Rights. He stated, and I quote, "Freedom will be bereft of all effectiveness if the people have no access to information. Access to information is basic to the democratic way of life. The tendency to withhold information from people at large is therefore to be strongly checked." It is recognized that freedom of information is a right which underpins democracy and the rule of law. And that is why I took steps in 1999 to enact the Freedom of Information Law in Trinidad and Tobago. The European Court on Human Rights decided that the failure of a public authority to provide government-held or public authorities-held information to an individual constituted an interference with the right to family life and privacy. Trinidad and Tobago is also a party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and Article 19 of that covenant, in effect, guarantees the right to freedom of information. In 1999, the special rapporteur to that commission stated, and I quote, "Everyone has the right to seek, receive, and impart information, and that this imposes a positive obligation on states to ensure access to information, particularly with regard to information held by government in all types of storage and retrieval systems." I want to say that our client, Mr. St. John, in his pre-action protocol letter, has pointed out the basis of his claim, has demonstrated that if the Commissioner of Police does not accede to his request, he will have no alternative but to go to court. He pointed out that he's entitled to get damages, compensatory, vindicatory, aggravated. But he has made it clear to us that he is not interested. He's not mainly interested in damages or compensation. His main aim is to vindicate his reputation and his character. And that if the Commissioner of Police corrects the record to reflect what is in his certificate of good character, he doesn't want to file any claim, he doesn't want any damages, he doesn't want any compensation. He just wants justice. He wants his name to be cleared. So this is not a man who is seeing a problem which occurred in the executive arm of the state and is using it to get money or compensation or damages. This is a man who is genuinely fighting to get what is due to him, what the law tells him he must get, to get his record, his personal records corrected. You know, when I was looking at this matter and considering the facts and the law, I came across what the Prime Minister said recently, reported in The Guardian of the 26th of March 2024, and I quote him, "As I speak, and I quote, as I speak to you now, the problem has multiplied because for the last 2 weeks, we have been dealing with the state's contribution to that problem, where the state authority in position of trust has surreptitiously broken down, and the calypso that we listened to, who is going to guard the guards, became the most pertinent question in Trinidad and Tobago, because the state agencies had become one with the criminal agency." The article further stated, and I quote, "The government has sought international assistance to determine how much and to what extent the state's national security apparatus was comprised and how to address it effectively." I want to make it clear that I had the privilege of serving as a Minister of Government, as an Attorney General. I worked with the Minister of National Security and with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We have one of the best police service in Trinidad and Tobago, but there are certain elements in the police service. And when those elements are detected and wrong is being detected, there's a duty to correct it. And I urge the Commissioner of Police to take steps to correct this issue. Please do not allow this man to have to go to court to try and get justice. The Commissioner of Police can correct this injustice. I think also this is a matter which the National Security Council of Trinidad and Tobago should investigate. This is a serious matter. It is serious because under this system, you have certain people, and you have even maybe certain people in certain agencies of the state can input information into a system which is totally untrue, which can accuse you of drug trafficking, which can accuse you of being involved in drugs, which can accuse you of serious offenses. You are not given an opportunity to deal with these allegations. You have no natural justice or anything like that. It is put there. Agencies then accept that without question. You can lose a bank account. You can lose an insurance benefit. There are many things that you can lose, individuals in Trinidad and Tobago. This is serious. Now, I have decided to bring the information we have got, not only to the Commissioner of Police, but to the public of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think it is the duty of lawyers to do that. When I was studying law, I learned and I studied the history of lawyers, and lawyers are supposed to perform a function to assist the public in understanding their rights. And when lawyers see things which go to the root of their fundamental rights and democracy, they have a duty to speak out. And we have decided not only to speak out in this matter, but if it is not solved by the executive arm of the state, to go to the courts, the judicial arm of the state, in order to remedy the problem. It may be there is no case decided, there's no precedent for this in Trinidad and Tobago. But that does not prevent me from creating a precedent. In 1975, when I was in prison as a lawyer, there was no precedent for a judge, if he violates the constitutional right in arresting a lawyer and imprisoning a lawyer, there is no precedent for the state to pay damages for that. Maharaj and the Attorney General #2 have solved that. That is now a precedent in the law. Since 1975, you could check the law reports, there are cases which there were no precedent for. And we as lawyers have a duty where there is no precedent to create precedent. And this is one precedent that I would create it for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you very much, members of the media. Mr. Maharaj and I will take any questions if you all have any questions at this stage. It was dated 19th of April, yesterday, 2024, and a 14-day deadline for response of the Commissioner of Police.
Okay. Well, let's say there's a member of the media and somebody doesn't like you but you went and you got a certificate of good character. But they have access, whoever this individual is or individual, they have access to input data into that system, in the Veridex system, the TTPS Veridex system. They can put whatever information they want. And if you go, let's say you want to take out an insurance policy, the insurance company sometimes would ask for an investigation on you. So what happens if you go to the police, or if the insurance company employs a security agency, the police may not access that system because they will give you a certificate of good character. But the insurance company or the bank or other people will employ an investigator who will access the different systems. And that is what happened in this case. What happened in this case, Mr. St. John did not get one certificate of good character. He got several. Even from 2022 to present time, he got several certificates of good character. Now, I had it in my note, but I forgot to mention it. Mr. St. John had one problem in his life. He had a minor immigration offense in America. The USA National Visa Center said in law that does not prohibit him from getting a green card. That is the law. The authorities in Trinidad knew about that, but it is about convictions in Trinidad and Tobago. He has no conviction anywhere else in the world. So, but they give him a certificate of character several times. So you can go and you can get several certificates of good character and clean record. But you do not know what somebody recording against you. So if it is that you have such a record, and you have a certificate of good character, and you have other information, and this is the police service, you would expect that if you ask the police service to correct this, the police service would investigate it, and if somebody else is having false information, tell you about it, take action, and correct the system. What the TTPS did in this matter, they said they have no responsibility for this. But you have a clean record, and that is most that they could do. That wasn't satisfactory. That can't be satisfactory. And that is why I could see people who cannot afford to go to lawyers, who cannot fight, can be a victim of this kind of system. And therefore I decided, and we decided, we're going to expose it. Has it been?
How has it affected him as a businessman?
Oh yes, I said so. It has affected him as a businessman because remember when he goes to the bank, he has a problem. When he has to take out licenses, he has a problem. His businesses has been reduced to some extent because you are at the discretion of an insurance company or a bank. If you want a loan, they look at you differently. So if you're a businessman running a business, I am saying this because I think business people could be mostly affected in the volume of how they would be affected because it will affect their businesses. Individuals would be affected in a different way. It affects their character and reputation, which is very important. But this is not right. It has to be corrected. Well, it'll be difficult for him to know who put it, because, I mean, he would like to know who put it, because if he knows who put it, it maybe could give him an action and sue for libel and things like that. But his main concern now, remember this man has lived with this for so many years, he has been trying to get it corrected, and his main aim is that he values his reputation and his character, and he wants that to be cleared. And Mr. Lalla has talked to him more than I have spoken to him. You could probably tell.
And I would just add on what Senior has said, that this is meant to be a confidential system. So what is revealed there, members of the public or certain people could be victims of this, but they would never know. Mr. St. John was able to have this information provided to him, which revealed erroneous and false information which has damaged him. So the concern is this a compromised system that many people who may have, let's say, difficulties with business or otherwise have had their name tarnished? And how do we ensure that there's integrity in the system in an age of digitalization, that your character and your reputation could be destroyed with a simple entry?
Just as a follow-up, you might not want to say, but would you mind telling us what kind of information, from a general perspective?
I think that would not be fair to Mr. St. John, and I don't think I would want to do that, because then that would be doing him more damage. I think it's sufficient if I could tell you that you have a certificate of good character and you have information which does not portray him as a man of good character. Okay? Well, it seems to me that the TTPS database has different systems. So it seems to me, I'm not sure, but I'm trying, I find it mind-boggling myself. Now, the letter from the Commissioner of Police did not dispute that there's a Veridex system in the TTPS. They have not disputed that, but they have not admitted it, right? But it seems to me that it is possible that the TTPS has several databases. One system is a system to give you a certificate of good character. Another system might be a system in which they profile individuals. They profile, I don't know how they do it, how they get the names, what they do, but they profile individuals. And you wouldn't know what is there. Now, you have no problem if that is merely an intelligence setup and it is not used as private and confidential. They will have to investigate like the special branch. But if it is that you're going to use this system to be able to share that information and allow it to be shared to adversely affect individuals, that is where the problem arises. I mean, I'm not saying they can put anything there about any politician and can damage the politician, doesn't matter who he or she is. They can put anything there about any judge, any lawyer. As a matter of fact, my name probably there, I do not know. It's only when I stop at the immigration department or something I would probably know, and now I would have to come to Mr. Lalla. So the system is a danger to every individual. Well, I think the government has to look at this. I think it is a matter which the government has to look at. Now, I want to make it clear, because I had some experience in this. if it's merely an intelligence gathering unit in which they accumulate intelligence, and sometimes that intelligence can be false intelligence, but that is private and confidential. That's not supposed to be divulged by anybody or to anybody. One can understand that because that happens in every country. But that is not what is happening here. What is happening here, you have this Veridex system which has been used to profile individuals, to which other entities, individuals and whoever have access to it. Because how it is that the investigators who investigate this matter could have got the snapshot, could have got things, and they know the system, and the name of the system has not been denied. So it means that the system exists. So if it is not in the TTPS, where the system is, who owns the system, who is operating the system, that is important for the government to know, and that is why I say the National Security Council should conduct an investigation into this.
Who's guarding the guard?
Who is guarding the guards? In the words of the Prime Minister. Okay, anything else? Well, thank you very, very much. It's so good to see some of the members of the media I knew in my day in public life, in my days in public life. So good to see you. Okay, all the best.